It's been almost exactly 10 years since the release of The Witcher 3, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk to the developers who actually worked on the game, so I took a trip to CD PROJEKT RED. I have wonderful guests for you today, and we talked about the good old days before the release of the game, even better days after its release, and I managed to squeeze some questions about The Witcher 4 in there. It's not a lot, but it's there. So get yourself comfortable. It's a long conversation, but I think it's worth it. Let's begin. Okay, gentlemen, so let's imagine today is 19th of May 2015, and I'm interviewing you on this day. Could you please introduce yourself? What are you doing at CDPR? And then what are you doing here today?
So, hi, I'm Paweł Mielniczuk, and I'm a lead character artist at The Witcher 3.
Hello, Sebastian Kalemba, and I'm a lead character animator on The Witcher 3, White Hunt.
Hi there, my name is Marcin Momot, and I'm a website and community coordinator here at CD PROJEKT RED on Witcher 3.
And some things have changed since then. So what are you doing today?
Well, some times have passed. So right now I'm art director at the new CDPR project called Project Hadar. And I cannot say much about it.
I can imagine. Let's leave it for a different conversation at a different time.
Over there, I was like, a month after my 30th birthday, and today I'm 40. So many things changed. But yeah, currently I'm a game director of Witcher 4.
And I'm the global community director, so I'm responsible for all of our outgoing organic communications around the world when it comes to communicating what we do here in the studio to the players.
So it's been a long 10 years. A lot has changed. How do you look at those 10 years? Happy, tiring process, satisfying process? What was it?
Happy for sure, very happy. I think none of us would be here if we were not happy for that period of time, right?
Absolutely,
Like, because we've all been here for over a decade. So I think what we can say is that we love what we do, and
Hell of a journey.
Yeah.
Hell of a journey. Yeah.
I feel it's even more than 10 years. I don't know. I feel it's like 20.
Well, Paweł, you've been here for 20 years.
I am. But since the release of The Witcher, it's like ages ago. So many things.
Every year was packed with experience, I would say.
One big game released meanwhile, but then there were obviously Gwent, there was Thronebreaker, and later on was Rogue Mage, I remember.
Also EPs, right?
Yeah, but of course, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. That was the most fun times.
Honestly,
in our game development.
Still Hearts of Stone
life.
is my absolutely top.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So where were you work-wise when you were releasing Witcher 3? Like, was Heart of Stone very much, let's say, closed as a project, or that was still ongoing? And what kind of process was happening with Blood and Wine?
The story was finished, almost, like divided on quests, and the quest documents were kind of finished. But when it comes to some of the characters were
I think we started working on it.
Yeah. But it was like also, like we did it in finally 9 months.
It was the fastest project we did here in the studio ever.
Like insanely fast.
Yeah.
And maybe because story was like super well done and it didn't require like that many iterations. Technology was done. The team was already like, built in this like the most, let's say, demanding times.
But also I think that the big factor was that, before the release of The Witcher 3, we know the game is good, but we did not expect such a incredible, I think, the reception from the players. And I think everybody was so hyped that we just jumped on making this DLC, It
was a fuel, it was like a rocket fuel.
Everybody was
we wanted to deliver more. Right, it was crazy.
Pure fun.
Yeah, but it was also a bit on the smaller side, right? Because it was a very self-contained story that was about 10 to 12 hours. So I think probably that played a factor as well.
Oh, the big one. Absolutely.
Nonetheless, like as you said, like to me, it's like out of the trilogy, as I call it. So, but the base game, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, I love Hearts of Stone the most because of the story and how fleshed out it is.
Very polished, let's say.
Yeah.
It's our that's why. Yeah, I believe so. And I completely agree. You have a story for 12 up to 15 hours. It's way easier to iterate on, right? Then it just the scale also requires like algorithmically almost like it changed, it impacts the change for the project. But yeah, that was fun time. Honestly, I remember that every single day there was this feeling of increment. Like you enter company at 9, let's say 8 a.m. and you've been living it at 11 p.m. I'm joking. And you've been living it, and then you felt, let's say, yes, we pushed things, right? Like literally increment. I see it physically almost. Like that was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah.
So let's stick with this thing for a second. What do you think was the best thing you got to do with Witcher 3 or the expansions for it? The thing that you remember the most that you're still happy about that you worked on this?
I mean, for me, that would be probably Ciri. For me, it's a very long journey because since I became a lead character artist, there was not much time I got to make actual models. The majority of my time was managing the team, working with concept artists, with character artists, with technology, making sure that everything is delivered and everybody is aligned. So the only things I was left, I kept to myself to make for this project and finish was the Ciri face and hair and Yennefer's. So for the garment and the hairstyle, other artists were responsible, but I was just for 3 years tweaking those faces and making them perfect. So I feel like she's my daughter.
Yeah, that's true. True, Geralt. I remember I challenged myself. Also, I believe you also remember that after Wild Hunt release, I really been pushing so much to increase the quality of monsters in expansion packs, big time. But at the same time, we had the same limitations. So the same software, the same engine, so how to push monsters and on entire loops in expansion packs when you are actually having the same tools. So it was a pretty big challenge, but I think we did it because even the reception from after both expansion packs, we even got a nomination for Annie Award.
I remember Charlie. I think it was one of my best.
Charlie. The Toad, and also Olgiers, right?
Oh, that was Caretaker.
Caretaker, yeah. Like every single a boss fight was super meaningful, and they had this like loop within a loop. So we changed the design generally, how to approach them, making them, let's say, more meaningful when it comes to their let's say, habitats and the place and the way how they belong to the place that you are encountering them to. So yeah, we push it big time. Same with Blood and Wine, right? With Dettlaff and Regis and all the other vampires. That was the biggest challenge I remember.
Regis coming back from the community perspective, that was just something that not many people expected, you know, and him being there, it was a big thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Turning into a vampire, that was a challenge. I remember, like how big the clothes should be, how much he's changed. There was a lot of work and debate around it. Yeah, but there were many things. When you compare Witcher 2 and Witcher 1 to Witcher 3, there were a lot of things that changed. Like starting from the open world structure of the game. So that was the fact that we pulled this off was already incredible, and something we were incredibly proud of, because nobody in the studio believed in that the day we started.
But it was basically just taking Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, and making the most out of it, and that's what Witcher 3 was about, right? Mm-hmm. Like taking open world, taking great story, really rich narrative, and just like Witcher 3, which is, I'll be very non-biased, or maybe biased rather, but it's a 10 out of 10 game. Like really, like The Witcher 3, like amazing stuff. Yeah. And I'm not saying this just because I work here, but as a gamer, there's a reason why this game is in conversations for the best games of all time now, right? And whenever people are talking about best RPGs, like Witcher constantly comes up. And to me, that's a testament of like how much of great work went into this game, right? It's just out there.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to ask, since you worked on Ciri for Witcher 3, did you get any chance to help with Ciri's design for Witcher 4?
No.
No. Okay, I expected you would still have a chance, but you said you were working with Hadar now, so
we're in constant contact and in a great relation with our director from Witcher 4, Lucian Więcek. However, they just did not need my help. She's doing great.
Okay, so let's.
That was a blessing from Paweł.
But that's good. I mean,
one thing
passed the torch.
I had a chance to help with the medallion, so that's because I've been working on all the 3 medallions from the beginning of the Witchers, so I was asked to help out with the design of the medallion, and
so continuity is still there. Okay. So when you were getting ready to release Witcher 3 in the studio, like what was the general atmosphere in there? You said before that you expected the game to be good, but not how well it's going to perform. But what was the feeling within the studio at that time?
I had a modest, if I can start, I had a modest expectation coming from The Witcher 2, which was my first title with the company. And I don't know how many of you remember, but unfortunately the game didn't work for the first 24 to 48 hours because there was a file that was required to be downloaded, 50 megabytes was the size of it. So my modest request was for the game to work. So I you know,
It was a lot of trouble.
but it was, the expectations were exceeded much more. So that, like, just starting it off on a funny note here, coming from The Witcher 2 to Witcher 3.
I'll be honest, on the day of the release, I was working already on the patch for the locomotion, I believe so, some improvements. And honestly, the feeling was like, I was like working on it. We released it. Cool. How's it going? Pretty good. Awesome. Like, you know, like I didn't have a time, a moment. I remember, like, no, there was one moment after release when we went to Blue City, the gallery in Warsaw, and there was this opening.
Yeah, the midnight launch event. Yeah,
the launch event, and I remember that someone passed me Andrzej Sapkowski's book, was like, please sign. I'm like, I didn't write it. No, don't worry about that. Please put your autograph. I'm like, can I? Yeah, please do. Okay, I put it. And that was the only moment. And then I get back to company working on patch, you know. So
yeah, I think that day in the Blue City was the moment I realized that, whoa, we made something special. Because, you know, we're in Poland. We have this our specific attitude, right? So I think in my team, at least in my corner of the company, it was like, I don't know, it's not gonna work.
Could be better.
Yeah, you know, there's so many things to fix. We didn't manage to, you know, fix it. You never can fix it.
There's always a room for complaint.
Ready. So we're always complaining. So it's like, I don't know, not gonna work.
Something I have one memory related to the launch moment, which is very specific and etched in my mind. Basically, as I mentioned, I had some expectations towards the game, and I obviously played it before the release a bit, and I knew what to expect. I knew it was going to be great, but again, we didn't expect for it to be that great. But the midnight hit, the midnight struck, and then everything went quiet. And there was like no chatter. Like I was like all over, you know, Twitter, forums, everywhere, you know, checking what people were saying. And no one was saying anything. Like people were just playing the game. Yeah, it was just like, okay, everyone is enjoying, you know, their time with the game. Everyone is, and you know, like obviously, you know, later on players as they got the time, their hands on with the game for a bit more, they started telling us about things they liked, some stuff we should improve. But in general, my perception was that like people are playing and enjoying the game, and I just really vividly remember that moment, you know. Yeah, so that's like one memory that I have connected to that night particularly.
So the best thing the community can do when the game is launching is to not say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that means
for the first 15 minutes.
For the first 15 minutes, that means that they are actually playing the game and everything is running nice. So that's great. Yeah, and just like we're just like watching those numbers, seeing that actually people are in the game, that, you know, numbers are growing. And people are just enjoying themselves. So that's what matters.
And when was the moment you guys realized that, okay, this is going to be really big? Like, were, I don't know, the sales actually a good prognosis for this, or was it only after release sometime that, okay, this is going places?
I think it's a tricky question because with The Witcher 3 and its long-standing impact on the industry and on the gaming community, and the fact that we just can't let it go because we constantly, like, you know, as we said, we released 2 expansions, then we released a mod kit,
16 DLCs,
16 free DLCs, multiple patches, hot fixes, then we released Red Kit recently, we also released the next-gen version of the game, so we just can't let the game go. It's just like, and what I love is that every single day, new people get to experience this game. New people get to live the story of Geralt, him finding Ciri. You know, it's just like they get to appreciate what you guys did. And here I'm actually going to have a little bit of fanboy moment, Paweł, because you said like you're in your corner. The guys were like, like the character art team, in my opinion, in our company is second to none. Like you guys are like the way you bring characters to life together with our writers, right? Who write those layered stories. and animators as well, you know, drive them in cutscenes, and the fact that people are so attached to them, and you know, they bring them to life by creating cosplays, by you know, like recording animations or fan movies and whatnot. So I think this is a great reason to actually an example to show you that you guys are doing excellent work when designing those characters that resonate with people all over the world, no matter what they believe, no matter what are their interests. You know, they get so attached after playing the game to those characters that they just decide that, you know, like they want to bring them to life.
So, you know, it's the whole, our whole games are about characters, right? Meeting them is the most impactful part. So it's everybody's working toward that goal. And but to me, I think the realization, coming back to the question about when I realized it was such a great game, I think it was years later. You know, because back then, 10 years ago, information didn't spread that fast as well in social media.
Things sped up really quickly.
Yeah. Right now, it's instant. You can know if that's success or not. But back then, it was, you know, just reviews were appearing, some comments, some forum tweets. But I think years later, you can actually say it was such a great success because the game still is running for years after the release, right? And you're still surprised that it's still selling. People are playing it. People are coming back to it. The articles appear still. The game that was released 3-5 years ago, 10 years ago, people are chatting still about the game. So it's
I remember for me, it was the first moment was actually 6 weeks after launch, because then we like really understood like, oh my God, we exceeded the sales. The second thing was for sure the game of the year. Also, like it was like, okay, that's the potato stamp. Like that's the that okay, right? And then but like it's one of the, when it comes to the games, I perceive it as this game has one of the longest tails. You can see like this tail is like never ending. Like, you know, it's like the fox with the longest tail. And I really like, you know, when till now, as you Momot said, like people are getting back to this game to just experience the journey once more. It also is a testament of this kind of immortality when it comes to the good storytelling. Like, you know, you have a several like, and then characters that are like containers for the experience. Like, it's really cool.
So for me, there's one different moment, because obviously when the game was released, I played it, I felt that it is great, then the expansions came. But the actual impact of The Witcher 3 for me was the concert at FMF in Krakow, when the music from the game was happening. And I'm like, okay, this is bigger than just a game, because games weren't really present at those kinds of events.
Yeah. And we started with broadcast, if I remember. Wasn't it?
She was there for sure for the Hearts of Stone.
No, from Blood and Wine, because
that was a day before release of the expansion.
She sang the lullaby from the Night to Remember.
Yes. Yeah. That was it. Yeah.
Speaking of Night to Remember, that cinematic right before the release of the game, it's a masterpiece.
It's absolutely a masterpiece. Yeah, even from the cinematography standpoint, it's still like top. And it's classic. I mean, like nothing fancy, but just a perfect camera work, perfect edit.
And it just shows you what being Witcher is all about, right?
Yeah, it's packed, it's great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, from the community standpoint, what were the expectations about The Witcher 3 before the release? Like, what was the approach?
So it was the third game in the series, right? So people had many expectations and many questions about what characters would be returning, what characters would be coming that were from the books, right? For example, people were dying to finally see Yennefer, finally see Ciri, right? So when we revealed them, that was a great reaction, but everyone was very excited about that. People were curious if things were going to be, we've been basing them on the source material, so they were curious if they were going to be true to the source material. And then they had very specific questions. For example, like if there were going to be gnomes in the game, or in The Witcher 2 we had Orens, and The Witcher 3 we had crowns, Novigrad crowns. So they were curious about the conversion rate of the currency. So things like
These
that.
are the important questions.
Yes, they are, honestly, and like what I love about our community is that we whenever we are preparing to start communicating our games, we always try to like anticipate what sort of questions can come in, and what sort of stuff we should be prepared to answer, and we can really put our brains together. Like a lot of us are thinking about it, and we can never anticipate all of them. So this is what I love about our community in general, that they can be so passionate, so detailed about their question that we can just never meet their needs, which is great because it makes us really go out of our way to check that stuff in the game, and actually also to make sure that stuff in the game makes sense. Because quite often our community members who are very, very passionate about lore, very knowledgeable, sometimes they point out certain discrepancies, and then we have to figure out, why we did that, why we made that decision, right? So that keeps us on our toes. So that's what I love. So there were a lot of expectations, but really great ones.
Okay. And do you remember what were like the biggest praises and at the same time biggest complaints when the game was out?
Short answer would be I don't remember because it was a long time ago. But I am probably biased towards like what I really liked about the game. So I will probably tell you like trying to reach deep into those memories. And probably what I liked, what I disliked, maybe I will like probably project that onto that. So for me, again, characters, amazing stuff. Like I loved characters, and I think like, again, because people are so attached to them, I think this is what people were really appreciating about the game. The story as well, obviously the conclusion to the story of Geralt and how it all ended, and in general, I think the open world as well, and the visuals. I mean, this game is 10 years old, and honestly, I know we're like you asking about like how it was back then, but I think that still the fact that this game looks splendid right now, it looks marvelous, it still speaks volumes of how it was received from the visual standpoint back then 10 years ago. So I think the visuals were also something that was deeply praised by the community.
I remember not being able to play with full hairworks on the creatures. Only Geralt's hair were good looking for me. Those were the days.
Those were experimental technology.
Yes. Yeah. We always try to put
you tend to
stuff.
put experimental tech in your games, apparently.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the game from today's perspective, what do you think are the biggest crucial pillars that made this game successful so much? I know we're kind of touching on this all the time, but just to pinpoint some things that it stood the test of time.
It's like, I believe like adding the open world, like and without compromise, that literally was a huge challenge, but ultimately it boosted the entire storytelling of the game. So that this feeling that literally you can go whenever you see, whenever you want, and then continue the story. It makes you, like when it comes to the agency, right? It was a huge thing, this sense of freedom, and that real sense of freedom, right? That you don't have a glass walls, you don't have this corridor kind of look like everywhere, like paths and stuff like that. That was something like absolutely stunning. And I remember I've been watching YouTubes that people were like literally not believing that I can jump here. Yeah, just push the button. Oh my God, I died. Yeah, like all the same, like dude. Like honestly, it was really something extraordinary, especially talking about like 10 years ago. So definitely this, and scale generally, and the storytelling, because it's I would say it's easy to create a meaningful hook, but it's very hard to keep you motivated, especially when you are talking such a scale. Right now it's even more difficult because, you know, like the amount of content around us is like just, you cannot digest everything, like literally. like not even 10% of it nowadays. But still, it was also difficult over there just to keep the player motivated. So the stake needs to be very strong, and you have to go there because this inner feeling that I'm going to play after work today because I have to do ABC. For me, like these two things are the most important pillars when it comes to like what's behind the success of this game.
On top of that, I think that the whole narrative, it must be said that it was a fantastic balance of very mature storytelling and touching on very difficult topics like the Barn Quest, for example, right? Which we don't shy away from difficult topics, which might be very controversial also for some players. On the other hand, you had quests which are just absolutely fun, for example, right? So there was this perfect balance. It's like a great movie that you watch every year, same time, you never get bored, right? Because you want to come back to those memories, those jokes, and those difficult topics, difficult decisions, and that's this game has this perfect balance of.
That's a really actually cool thing, and I think it's also coherent, very very coherent with generally with all Andrzej Sapkowski's creations, right? Because he even like when you talk to him, he was also always to create something that's like he calls it like a cocktail of genres, right? So you have a comedy, thriller, drama, a horror kind of a thing. Of course, there is a meta theme, meta genre, right? Here we have a fantasy and a mix of it. It's a grounded, right, stuff, but it doesn't mean there is no hope. It doesn't mean that there are like what Momo said about like making characters meaningful. It's like if you create a character that is flat from the character from the personality point of view, is only angry, it's only like there's no sense of humor at all, then the character also becomes meaningless in the long run. So I think this cocktail like that makes this game also, that makes your journey also unexpected, which is also great because that also is part of the motivation. You want to be surprised.
And also, no two playthroughs are the same, honestly. With the amount of choices and consequences, the decisions, like even in the smallest quests you stumble upon, like when you're exploring the forest or any village, it just like blows my mind. Like you don't really see games that do this so well. And again, sounding super biased here, but for the sake of this anniversary video, I will. I think that the fact that you're making a decision at some point in the game, like let's say 10 hours in, and then 30 hours later, you encounter a character that, is impacted by the decision you made 30 hours ago, is just like really, really unusual. And this game is spiked with those situations. Every step of your way, you meet a character, you grow fond of it, you make a decision. Can be bad, can be good. It's actually never better good. Like you can think, but then it turns out to be something else because like we always talk about those shades of gray, right? It's never like clearly black or clearly white. And then like you see how this character was impacted, or the world, or their situation is just like super unusual, honestly.
There's also this fantastic amount of Easter eggs and small mysteries and stuff. Yeah. People were discovering them for years to come, actually. Exactly. Some of the mysteries are still not discovered.
Yeah. Maybe you can give some hints, Paweł.
Let's keep this going in a moment.
and Gwent, of course, because after this 30 hours of playing, you realize that the last 20 hours you've been playing Gwent. and you forgot the progress.
Came for stories, stay for Gwent, right?
Like, Ciri can wait. Okay, so from, I think, today's perspective, we can take a stab at this. What do you think was the weakest element of The Witcher 3?
Can start.
I know what people say, but...
I can start, because I see you guys are struggling a bit, so I'll make it easier for you. However, I will disagree, because, I will first say something and I will disagree with myself. Yes, but...
That's a good start.
Yes, but...
Maybe we're gonna leave him for 15 minutes.
So basically, there are some opinions on the internet saying that the Witcher combat is not the greatest. I don't know, this is what you were trying
to... I wanted to say that people say that this is the thing that they would point to.
Yeah, so I started replaying The Witcher 3 because this is the year where, the game turns 10, so perfect moment to start another playthrough. So I started playing the game again, and the combat is quite okay, honestly. That's why I said I'm going to disagree with myself, because it's quite engaging, it's very brutal, it's satisfying. I mean, looking from the perspective, yes, when the sword goes through the body, like maybe the effect could be a bit meaty, like meatier, maybe like, you know, so we actually get a bit more satisfaction out of it. But it is quite nice. It's deep, it's tactical, you know, you have the signs, you can plan out your encounters, and it's very dynamic and keeps you on your toes. I actually like it. So there you go.
That's one.
That makes it easier for you guys.
Yeah, I was about to actually say about combat and responsiveness of the character. You know, looking in the past, like we could design the system that drives the entire capsule of the character in a better, smarter way to give you the ability to traverse the world in a more, I would say, accessible and more fun way. Like I'm also replaying Witcher from time to time. I have this like never-ending playthrough. I just once a week I just play 1 hour. Is that I'm a bit, and of course I'm also biased because originally, like by heart, I'm an animator, so I love this animation movement fidelity. It needs to be, you know, like, and then I cannot achieve this. Like, and sometimes, you know, I want to go to the tavern and I'm like hitting myself with the frame and stuff, and of course I didn't mean to do that, right? And just, you know, I'm doing it by mistake. So looking in the past, this is something that would definitely improve. Second thing is, as I mentioned, combat. I agree with you, Momo, but my issue with the combat is that it wasn't like super deterministic. So many reasons behind that, like for example, mashing Geralt. It was kind of, I was like mashing through the combat rather than like being a full tactic second to second kind of a stuff. So I had the reward after the combat, and I didn't have a reward during the combat. I didn't like enough rewards during the combat, and definitely that's something that we could improve over there. But there are great lessons also, right, for us, because it's always about improving and, like, you know, pushing ourselves here, elevating. Like generally, that was one of the great lessons we took very seriously for developing Cyberpunk, right, or about like improving combat, because of many reasons behind, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So what I can add, so maybe from more art area maybe. So apart, I remember stuff which is maybe not the most important for players nowadays, etc. Right? But I remember sailing the boat and riding the horse was a real struggle for years to come, and we've been patching and fixing that for eternity. But from my department, I think, like Marcin said, right now the game is still looking very great, right? There was this next gen edition, some texture upgrades, also community, and the modders were also adding a lot to it. So one thing, when you play it right now, it looks great, except one element which I was responsible for. Unfortunately, that was the mimic system. It was, I think it was good enough back then, but it didn't age very well. So when you play it and you see those very stiff mimicry on the characters, it's just something that just doesn't match the rest of the game, which still matches the modern standards, I guess. So with Cyberpunk, Seba, the team did a way better job with the Jolly system.
Yeah, but you know, I remember these times very well. And yeah, in my opinion, like having in mind this, let's say, historical context when you look at games, like we need to also remember that, first of all, that was the moment when the game industry were kind of starting to look for the solutions to make the facial expressions comparable to the CGI and to the movie industry in general. It was a moment of blend. So in Cyberpunk we had this opportunity to actually incorporate the Jolly. But having said that, I think I wouldn't be that judgmental, Paweł, to be honest, because having in mind the scale and having in mind that we were like we had to
13 languages.
13 languages, right? and the lip sync was literally like following the words that nobody delivered before. So like it was crazy. I remember from the community, like I remember like some feedback coming from Germany, like for example, that how is it even possible that characters are not dubbed, like they are like, you know, following. We had this whole scene scaling feature, so the scenes were, let's say, a little bit longer, and my animator's eye was, let's say, crying sometimes because you have a performance, and sometimes the character was taking the map this way, and I was like, oh my god.
Because in one language the sentence lasted, I don't know, 10 seconds, and the other language was 15 or 20, right? So everything had to scale, so there's no way to manually tweaking the expressions and stuff. It just had to work out of the box.
There was this one cutscene, changing the topic a bit, but maybe not that much, in Blood and Wine that was like about 10 minutes.
Oh, the longest one was 27
minutes. It was
minutes.
more.
It was 27 minutes.
27
okay, never mind.
At the table
okay.
with all the main characters.
Yeah, so
It was a cutscene. It was on the Henrietta's castle. You had a discussion with.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it was
We also got
27 minutes,
that feedback later.
Wait, there is or there was a 27 minute?
There is.
I don't recall that.
Yeah.
I think
If
it
you go through
depends
all
how
the options,
how
it
you
takes 27
how you
minutes
go
to
through
go
the
through all
dialogue.
the
Because
Okay.
you can exhaust all the options and then it adds up to almost 30
Yeah,
minutes.
and the dialogue, you can maybe you cannot remember it very well because the scene wasn't that static. So it started somewhere in the Henrietta's castle, then you go on top of the floor, then you have this kind of moving scene, right? And that's why you kind of live it with, like you can survive.
Yeah, it's done really well, so you don't really feel that it's.
Yeah, because like all the choices are meaningful there. So and there's a pretty important moment in the entire story. So you really want to know.
Yeah, but that I think this is what is a testament that it's done well, because I don't recall having to survive a 27-minute cutscene.
Yeah.
That's okay. So I guess we can assume that you mentioned for Cyberpunk you were focusing on combat because that was the weaker part. So I guess for the next Witcher, these are probably elements you're also pushing that these have to be better because you're aware of some shortcomings that were there.
The idea at CD PROJEKT RED, this is why I love this environment, is that we always try to push ourselves. So, after every project we have like, hey, some kind of like, retrospection. We think what could be better, like what can we push and stuff like that. We are trying to make as educated calls as possible when we are like kind of structuring the strategy for the next installment and a new game. So obviously, it's not only that we want to push combat, we want to push everything. So yeah, that's the big idea, right?
Okay, so we mentioned the things that were maybe not the best, but is there anything that you would change in The Witcher 3 from today's perspective? Anything at all?
A little bit, the journaling and objectives to make it maybe not from the UX point of view. Because also I've been, going through Reddit multiple times, and I found out that some people felt lost here and there, and they didn't feel, where's this main objective I am supposed to follow? And in my opinion, we could improve on how to communicate really the golden path.
Mm-hmm.
And
the one on the minimap?
Also, right? Because these things are like adding to each other, right? It's like one, let's say, coherent system. You have a minimap, you have objective, you have journal. You are just switching between objectives. So how to make it in a more, let's say, streamlined way that is like communicating with the player like instantly, right? So you don't have to go in and really spot and stay there for some second and really analyze, which is also cool. But it's cool when you do it like a few times. But if you have to do it multiple times, then it can be frustrating. So I believe like, yeah, this is what I.
It's also difficult to come back to the game after a longer break. Right?
Yeah.
To just get where were you? What?
Yeah, and that comes from complexity. Like the story recaps were like very helpful. But yeah. Of course, due to the deadlines and the limits and all this kind of stuff, I believe we could have more of the recaps to help player to like to like remind them and where they left the game. But yeah, sure. Like this.
If you're thinking still, Paweł, I can think of one feature that I would maybe elaborate on, and this is something we added in the next gen version of the game. So that is a photo mode. I'm crazy about photo mode, and I love putting it on all of our games because it's a very important tool for a big group of our community members, the virtual photographers, right, who take amazing screenshots, and I just feel that maybe we could expand it a bit more, like we did with Cyberpunk, right? Like we have crazy options allowing people to really express their creativity when it comes to taking screenshots in Cyberpunk. So I would love to see some of that in The Witcher.
But that was the process, right? Because at first the game didn't have a photo mode, but there was this NVIDIA ANSO.
Yeah.
So that you could use that for...
Yeah. And The Witcher 3, we added it with the next gen version. Yeah.
Okay. That was one of my questions that I have here is like, can you at some point physically stop working on The Witcher 3? Because you have next gen version, you have RedKit, you had the switcher, which is something we
forgot
have
about
not
that as well.
today.
Yes.
And it like the same thing with Cyberpunk. You did 2.0 expansion. Okay, now we're doing 2.1. This is the end. We're not doing anything more. Then there's another patch, and then there's the Switch version of Cyberpunk. Does it stop at some point?
Oh, see you in 10 years, man.
Okay, I'm fine with that. We can then do a recap.
It's a dwell. It's a never-ending dwell.
Like, why stopping? Is there a problem?
I think people don't mind that they still keep getting stuff. Do you remember people were like trying to come up with an idea for a third expansion? And there was one that people liked a lot. I think it was called Sands of Ophir or something like that. There was even a whole PDF document done by the community where they wanted to have this kind of thing.
And it was, I think, and it was inspired by the first quest from Heart of Stone, right?
Yes.
When you had
the enchanter.
You had the fight with the Ophiri mage.
Yes.
And he was a big guy, big man, like first mini boss, and I can imagine being a fun to create such a conspiracy theory even, because the way how this entire beat is written, it kind of is delivered in a, I would say, in this like a promise way. Mm-hmm. So it was. Can I tell like? Ophir is a cool place.
It was a fun thing. I mean, I remember playing Hearts of Stone for the first time and being on the boat, and then I have this fight, and suddenly I realized, oh wait, I'm still next to Novigrad. Like I thought I will be somewhere else completely. So, but yeah, it was fun. I still keep thinking about this idea that the community had, because it was such a detailed work that people did on this. You know, it was fun.
Yeah, but this is what we were talking about moments ago, that our community is so passionate when it comes to lore, when it comes to the source material, when it comes to exploring all the transmedia, let's say, we have around, you know, the Witcher brand, that they can come up with this stuff, and it's just mind-blowing, really.
Okay, we'll come back to this in 10 years then. Let's go to ice skating. I know you've probably saw that people, I think it was in the next gen version, somebody actually took the parts of animations that were supposed to be used and recreated Ciri using those. So you can have Ciri ice skating in Velen. But we know there was supposed to be an ice skating fight with the Wild Hunt.
So it's official, we can tell about it?
I mean, people, I think it was probably said somewhere in the interviews, kind of, because people, like this is common knowledge on the internet.
Okay.
Maybe you won't be able to tell me specifically why, unless you can. But is it just the regular development process of that didn't work?
We left, actually, the anime set, exactly, of Ciri ice skating. But yeah, it was like, it was actually part of triaging, like general. We didn't have enough time to make it like really well, because it was a super complex task. You know, it's not just about actually to make Ciri, you know, skating. It's about to make an entire loop work around skating. This is difficult. But I've seen this mod. There's also a mod that you can generally ice skate through the world with Ciri currently, you know, through the first werewolf encounter. Like, you know, it's fun. But yeah.
it's with the mods, it's like people see the mod and it's possible. Yeah, but you forgive a lot of things to the mod, right? So it has its flaws, right? Not always works with other animations in combat situations, etc. It's the same like with mods with TPP mode for Cyberpunk, for example. Yeah, cool, you can do that, but there's a lot of situations where it just falls apart, and to fix those moments requires an enormous amount of work. So with Ciri, we actually made a concept art for it. We made a model for the ice skating. She was standing on ice skating. I remember we had a prototype of going circus, etc. So everybody was, so it's easy, we can do that. But then this avalanche of problems was rising and rising. So
okay,
it's,
fine.
But if you really miss,
it's making a game within the game.
If you really miss Ciri skating, there is a book coming, Geralt and Ciri, and I wrote a short story about Geralt and Ciri skating.
Oh.
Nice. Do they do that in
2 pages?
Do they do that in Skellige?
It was growing in you,
Okay.
right?
Okay. But yeah, I think I get why people miss that, because obviously the inspiration coming from the books, the very unique fight that Ciri has. So I get it. Okay, so let's not maybe talk about cut content, but behind the scenes stuff, funny development stories. You published a great reel for 10 years of The Witcher in 2017 with bug reel, funny things happening. I remember the story of deleting content from the map that ended in one place in the world. Like, let's talk about funny things like that.
That wasn't funny.
I mean,
why my performance dropped to 2 FPS here?
Every time I look there,
Yeah, like what's going on?
There,
So let's recall this. How did that happen?
I don't know what was the exact technical reason behind that, but there was like random objects placed on the map were just sucked into the black hole in one point of the map. I don't know, it was 0 point, it was 0 point probably, right? So everything that did not work from some reason on the game was just sucked in there and just stayed there because nobody noticed it and didn't delete it because it was not present in the location it was put originally. So at some point there was this. Whenever you looked in this very specific direction, the frame rate was dropping to literally 2 frames, and for a pretty long time we couldn't figure out what's happening there until someone discovered there's this small black hole and millions of objects compressed into a point in this one location.
Oh, I remember also very well. We didn't have much time to create the wedding scene with Vito, Olgier's brother, and there was this dancing scene for Geralt. So you could like press the button on the dancing floor, and Geralt was doing salsa, and we have one salsa guy here, Paweł Sasko. So I just approached Paweł.
Who else?
Paweł, we have like 2 hours. Can you jump into suit and and show us some salsa moves? I was like, sure thing. He jumped into the land. He did salsa. We just proceed with data. Bang, it's done. Geralt dancing salsa. Why not?
So Paweł Sasko was the go-to guy to do weird stuff, because I remember in this recording he's groaning as the giant. I think he has this part voiceovers for this.
We had plenty of actually employees doing VO work for Witcher 3, right? Like some noises and stuff. So shouts and So that's also one of the perks working here. You can be immortalized by
exactly.
Just voicing.
Like look at the cemetery in Bouclair. Like there's like everyone. I think she's already dead, doing fine.
It was like someone's reaching out to people. So what do you want to have written on your tombstone?
I remember Carolina over there was running through the company. Do you want to be dead? Sure.
That has to be a very weird like Mantis or Jira task if you have. So your tombstone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I heard something about debug chickens.
Yeah, the big chicken. I think it was because I got sometimes Witcher 2 and 3 development is mixing in my head, but I think it was Witcher 3 we had the debug chicken. So whenever there was some issue with the character, someone made this trick so developers can notice that there's something wrong with the character, with the entity assignment, etc. So it was swapped into a large 2 meters tall chicken. That was spawning a lot of quite funny situation when in the dialogue you're just talking with, instead of Yennefer, there's a chicken standing there and you have a serious conversation about, serious stuff.
I also remember my funniest, I think that was funniest email I got during development of Witcher 3. It was like capital letters, the subject was Pandora box, do not touch the code. of the boat. Right, and finally, I think Michał Sobieski, like he finally stabilized it. Kind of, no, it works. Really, it works. Do not touch this code. It's a Pandora box. Anything you change, I don't know how I've managed, right? But it works.
You touch it, it explodes.
Definition of development, like definition of development, right? And yeah. And I remember like this email was like, saved by everyone, like as a reminder. We cannot touch this code from now on at all.
But also Plotka, like it's great that it became a meme, one of the biggest development problems we got become a meme of the game, which is great.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's always connected to the, the traveling measures.
Because it's super tough. Like generally making traversal, well, it's tough. It's simply super tough topic. It's like you start working on traversal day one, and you work till the release. It's one of these things that as soon as you're like dedicated to make a traversal, that's forget about anything else.
So you want to tell me that there is someone who's working for 3 years on just that aspect of the game? Yeah. I mean, sure, a group.
Bunch of guys. Yeah. Super tough.
And after the release, of course.
Yeah. 2.0, 2.2.
There's still someone working on it.
Yeah, 10 years after.
We keep them in the building, D.
But then there's a problem, because if you have this one person who knows how it works, and then it's done, then you don't know how to fix this or change it.
We keep them in the special place.
Yeah, most important employee of the company. Okay, so with The Witcher, obviously you had a huge impact. Netflix picked up on the franchise. You had so many comic books. The whole line of figurines set in Japan, which is also like very unusual take. Mm-hmm. Is there
Kitsune
something you would still like to do with this franchise?
It's a good question.
Very good one.
Everything.
For me, for example, like something that like I've always been a fighting games fan, and for me when we put Geralt into Soul Calibur,
I love
that was like and playing Soul Blade, Soul Edge back then as a kid, like in the 90s, and then having an opportunity to actually have something you work on to be added to one of the games of your childhood as well. That was the cherry on top for me. So
that was a very, very nice collaboration. Even Maciej Kwiatkowski, who was a stand of it, we sent him to Japan and he did the performance for. So it was like very also.
So what we're trying to say is that we did many different things, and it's really hard to come up with something new. Just making it easier, to answer this tricky question. No, but it's a good question. I'm sure there are some areas that haven't been explored and we'd love to do, but
there are also board games, right?
Yeah, there are board games as well. Yeah.
But for sure, the TV series, we're not responsible for it, so
Yeah, sure.
If I would have to say something, it would be great to be in the process of actually making it or making.
But what is great looking at it from the different perspective is that back when Witcher 1, Witcher 2, we had just 1 or 2 games, and now, as you mentioned, we have all these different media,
wheel, right?
and we have all these people who are joining our community because they played the game, or they watched the TV show, right, and they got interested in the game, or they played Cyberpunk and they got interested in The Witcher, right? So it's really nice that now we have this large group of people around the world who are interested in our games because they maybe started with board games or with the TV show or with another video game of ours that is not necessarily The Witcher. So that's what is really great and what I love about our community, that it's such a great group of diverse people from all over the world. Mm-hmm. Just united by one passion. Okay,
so a Roach car, for example, for the fans.
Roach car?
Roach car, yeah. Roach branded.
There was recently there was the BMW.
It was a custom-made BMW motorcycle.
R18.
That was modified. It had like the bands.
Yeah, I remember it.
It had all the elements exchanged, so it had like the Witcher medallion. It was really, really nice.
The kind of like Geralt's armor, like very, very beautiful.
Yeah. And so as you can see, it's difficult to come up with something that hasn't been explored.
Okay, difficult. But speaking of Roach, and this is very Polish Easter egg, but I remember the quest from Blood and Wine when you have Wojciech Mann speaking, and obviously this only makes sense in Polish why this is so substantial. But Yeah, I laughed my ass off when I saw that. And I think you did the video with Roach talking, and it was him doing the voice.
Yes, it was for April Fools.
Yeah,
if
I
I'm
think
not
so.
mistaken. Yeah. We did all sorts of crazy stunts back then.
I think it was Mark. Plus, we were like joking, or like I remember it's kind of like you have these documentaries with some ex-mafia guys. So I think Pixel was there.
Oh yeah, he was like blurred out. Yeah.
And like it was the Department of Bugs or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we are creating Roach to make it very funny. And it was like a very cool viral. I love it.
Yeah, we started off on a similar note. We started off with obviously the bathtub Geralt is a huge thing in the community and a big joke that everyone appreciates in a good way. And then like for April Fools, one of the years we said that we would make that a statue, right? Like an action figure. And then later on we made it actually.
Dark Horse agreed to do it.
It's such a big thing that one of the first comments I've spotted after TGA trailer of Witcher 4 was like, yeah, you can tell. It starts from bathtub, definitely Witcher. When Mjolnir goes into the bathtub, you can tell.
So since we're like nearing the end, one leg in the past, one leg in the future. When did you know, thinking about the success of The Witcher 3, that you will be able to make The Witcher 4? Not want to make, but you will be able to make.
Oh, we knew it from the get-go. Where I remember discussions with Badowski already, like during the Blood and Wine, we've been talking about Ciri and why it is a good choice. And I remember like over like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, we already had a very, very solid motivation for why this is important and why this should be the next step for us. So we knew it. Already there. Of course, it wasn't that crystallized and stuff like that, but the big idea was already there and that's set in stone. But we knew also that Cyberpunk was already ongoing, so we put all the power into this piece. Which was also pretty cool because it's good to have a fresh breath and fresh air for some time and get back to the IP with the sentiment.
In my team, we were ready from the like Sila said from the get-go. We were just ready to make the next Witcher. We never got bored with the franchise, so we didn't just jump into it instantly. And the switch to the Cyberpunk was actually really hard, right?
Yeah,
Something for after years of making, this medieval universe of The Witcher, switching to Cyberpunk was really difficult for us.
So always this moment, the moment of recalibrating. It's tough, because it requires some time to rewire the brain and like really get into the IP, the genre, the characters. All it requires some time to really fully recalibrate.
Okay, I will try not to ask too many questions about this. But one thing, because obviously the development process is not always full team working on stuff, but was that work on the next game still was happening in like a small team all the time? Like, you have a strike team of 10 people doing stuff. So
for Witcher 4, no.
So a full break, and you focused on Cyberpunk.
Full stop.
So that was a good refresh of the brain, indeed. Yeah.
For some, it's good. For others, it's not. Because then after so many years in Cyberpunk, you then have to switch back to the Witcher, right? So it's like, but we never managed to make 2 franchises at the same time. That was an intention for a long time, but it was just so difficult to make 2 games at the same time. So it was like sequence, and the time for the Witcher.
This is where we are right now, like scaling up the entire, like company, having Boston there, Warsaw. That's a challenge, but I think we are ready to do it. 10 years ago, we're like still kind of.
We're too small.
Yeah, we're too small, and also we're actually also about to finding the recipe, the big idea, the framework. Like it's like over there, like 10 years later, like company grew significantly, like on many levels. We are older, you know what I mean. But
Yeah, on The Witcher 3 we had what, like 300 people internally,
Something
right?
like that,
And
yeah.
now we're
Less.
like 1,000.
Yeah.
So it's really
I remember being here for the first time, probably in 2017 for Thronebreaker, and this whole place looked so much different. Like you had only a few floors in this building, I think, and then now you keep building stuff here on the campus. So
yeah, but also one of the characteristics of visiting this studio every couple of months is that every time you visit, it looks different because there's just this constant renovation, constant construction work going, which is expanding, and it's great because it's to benefit all of us. But it's just like funny for guests because you come here and then like you come here like 6 months later and oh wow, this wasn't here. Like this room
there's a
wasn't
new
here.
building.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and if somebody asked me, do you want to go to a studio tour? You've been here all the time. Yeah, I still want to go. Probably there's something new here. Okay, so what's coming back to it now? A natural, very process to come back to the next Witcher? Like, take the covers, little dusty covers of the furniture, or did it take some getting used to? Coming from Cyberpunk.
It's never easy. It's never easy. It's really nice to get back to the IP. I think people love it, and I think we have something great to cook. But it's really even small things, right? Like when you imagine you're a writer and you've been writing for the last 5 years Cyberpunk. It's a completely different genre, right? It's the way you write dialogues different, and stuff. So you have to recalibrate. Which is challenging, but super cool at the same time, because like you're kind of reinventing again, and at the same time you're thinking about how can you improve it. So it's super cool. Like every single IP here is always a challenge, and I'm super happy with doing it.
Good. So now I have 3 of you here, and that's for a reason, because I have a huge debate that we need to settle after 10 years of The Witcher. And there is no way there's a tie here. And the question is, obviously, Triss or Yennefer. This is the final time we're asking. I am asking about this.
I knew this one was coming.
For me, it's easy.
Yeah, for me it is easy as well. But
so go for it, Sebastian.
Dude, I'm Team Yennefer always.
Same here.
Same here.
So we're done. CDPR officially. Yennefer is the one to go. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for this conversation. If you have any final comments for the camera, for the people, then this is your moment.
Thank you so much for having us, and actually for creating the space to discuss Witcher 10 years later. And yeah, like stay tuned for more, right?
Yeah, thank you for inviting us, and to all of you playing the games. We just wanted to say thank you because whether you just play the games or you also engage with us on social media or create cosplay, create videos, any illustrations or just in general get involved with us in any sort of way via our channels. You really make our days. We're super grateful because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.